On this episode of Edge of the Web.
Apparently, I was the first one who asked this in, what was that, 13 years of Google. And then at one point, she came back to me and she was like, look, Gary, I can't put coffee on your contract. Like, there's just no way we can do that. But I promise you that you will get free coffee for life or until you leave Google. And I'm like, okay, fine, I will take your word. And now here I am, working from home and paying for my own coffee. So yeah, life sucks.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
All right, hey, this is Edge of the Web Radio, episode 362. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. Every week, we bring you amazing guests from around the world to chat about digital marketing trends and marketing news. We unpack a key metric or a key topic each and every show with our digital marketing audience. So whether or not you're at if you're part of an agency or a freelancer or part of a organization and you're in the marketing department, this show is for you. Be sure to check out everything over at edgeofthewebradio.com. All the recent shows, all the articles from the show, the videos, and much more. And if you're welcome to the show, here's the ropes. We usually record on Monday. We sometimes go live cast around 3 p.m., but we're starting to do more and more recording to adapt to our guest schedules. So we will do that, and then we'll actually repurpose the entire show for audio, going to all the different podcast aggregators, iTunes, Google Play, obviously, Player FM, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and many more. There's 2 podcasts each week. It's the news podcast with our guest as well as our interview podcast. So we're turning out a lot of good content for your consumption. We'll also push a lot of this into blogs and articles as well as social media. So we're trying to repurpose what we do with our guests on a regular basis. So check out all of that over at edgeofthewebradio.com. The show is actually sponsored by Site Strategics, our parent company. We're pioneers in the agile digital marketing. Our core specialties are technical SEO, SEM, social media, conversion rate optimization, website development, and the omni-channel media marketing. And this is basically what we're doing on a regular basis here. So we're going into search content, we're going into social content, audio and video lanes to meet that new media audience. So if you're interested in what we can do for you, let us know and give us a shout over at 877-SEO for web or 877-736-4932. All right. So in the booth, I've got Jacob Mann, who's on the stick.
Hello.
There you are.
Ready.
You ready?
Ready to go.
Oh, very good. Very good. We got a good show today.
Yes. I'm super excited about it.
We got to be on our P's and Q's here, man.
Yep.
This guy is a wit, is he not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been a good show. So we did the news already. So, yeah, it's good. And looking forward to the interview here. Glad I can just sit back and hit buttons and not have to ask the hard questions.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. We've got a few questions already under our belt, but it's going to be fun. We're going to be talking to Gary Illyes here in a moment, but we want to let you know who's actually coming up on the show in the next few weeks. We've got Jessica Bowman on the 20th. We've got Tim Schmoyer back again on the 27th. For a third time, we've got Max Yoder here from Indianapolis-based, Lessonly on the 3rd. Shama Ryder is here on the 10th of August. July Baccanini. I think we've had her on the show before as well on the 17th. And we've got the John Mueller of Google on the 24th. So if you're interested in being part of The Edge, drop us a line over at info@edgeofthewebradio.com. If you have any recommendations and organizations that regularly pitch guests, so we certainly field those as well. So let us know over at info@edgeofthewebradio.com. Be sure to set your reminders on YouTube as we premiere videos and much more over there. All right, that's the show. Housekeeping. I promised our guest that I would not abuse him as we were forcing him to listen to our podcast. Let's introduce you. Let's deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Gary Illyes, Webmaster Trends Analyst at Google.
righty. So I want you to introduce you to Gary Illyes. Who doesn't know Gary? If you don't know Gary, shame on you. You should trade in your SEO card because Gary has been in his space, I think, from 2011, a Webmaster's Trends Analyst over at Google. But according to his Twitter bio, he's also the house elf and chief of sunshine and happiness at Google. Gary, how are you doing?
All right. I mean, I could complain, but why would I? So it's fine, I guess.
You are epitomizing the chief of sunshine and happiness. Look at his camera. I mean, he's literally it's almost like he's got well, I mean, Martin's got to be the happy pink unicorn over there. So you got to have a balance, right? So Gary's coming in from the dark side here.
Yeah, I mean, the dark side is always, well, it's always more fun than his pink unicorn, fluffy, cloudy, whatever side is. Yeah, I'm pretty much the exact opposite of Martin. It's basically when, I don't know, when he's happy, then I'm the one who kills the butterflies around him, sprays them with something toxic. Just to make sure that I keep him on his toes. Yeah.
Well, it's a responsibility, is it not? I mean, you're
It is. I have to keep him in check. Yeah.
Oh, we appreciate that because we just can't have two happiness. Over then you have John Mueller, who's right there in the middle, being able to keep you all balanced.
That's correct. Yeah. And probably that's why he's our team lead as well. Mm-hmm. Basically, we just need someone who sometimes jumps between us and breaks up a virtual fight about whose butterflies we can kill. Yeah.
So it used to be. Yeah, it used to be pre-COVID. You had the Web Trends Analyst cage matches on Friday, but not anymore. It's all virtual, right?
I would prefer not talking about it for insurance reasons.
All right, so for our users, Gary's dedicated to creating a better search experience for users by helping webmasters create amazing websites and also tell them what they're doing wrong. So Gary's contributed to a Webmaster Central blog, and it helps users debug their sites in Webmaster Forum. He's also a keynote speaker at conferences like SMX and PubCon. Prior to joining Google in 2011, he was teaching online journalism in Romania and abroad. So Gary, you tend to be a troublemaker over at Google, right?
How dare you? I mean, you're right, but how dare you?
I had to call it like I see it, man. Okay. So we're looking for some meat in there, but we'll get to it. But what's your history? Give us your history in your words, if you would.
Okay.
Perfect.
So far, so good, huh?
All right.
So I grew up traveling for various reasons. So I speak many languages, 8 or 9 or whatever.
Jeez.
And I understand a bunch more. And that was super helpful for me, both at Google and before. I had to start working very early on. Actually, when I was 18, I already worked as a bartender to pay for college. And then I found new ways to make money. Mm-hmm. At that point, I gave up college because I decided that my first 2 years, I have a minor in economics. And I decided that that's not for me, mm-hmm. Because my brain is not wired to accept that 2 + 2 is sometimes 5. And then I was making money for other things. I was building my own businesses. I started working online a while ago, or a while after I stopped college. And then I went to another college in the US, and I became a journalist. Then I was running my own hosting business, basically specializing on small businesses bringing their sites online, their shops online. I was doing SEO for large, very large US publications. Actually, both sites, both R and D. It was a very interesting experience. And then I was working as a reporter for another big US media corp. It was lots of fun, which involved more travel, but eventually I decided that maybe going to war zones is not the best way to spend my time. So I started focusing more on helping people online with random things. I ended up in the Google help forums, and I was helping there. And then one day, John Miller pinged me if I want to join his team, and I was like, let me think about it. Can you guarantee that I will have coffee on my contract, free coffee? And he was like, I don't know. I have to ask the recruiter. And then the recruiter was freaking out because apparently I was the first one who asked this in, what was that, 13 years of Google. And then at one point she came back to me and she was like, look, Gary, I can't put coffee on your contract. Like, there's just no way we can do that. But I promise you that you will get free coffee for life or until you leave Google. And I'm like, okay, fine. I will take your word. And now here I am working from home and paying for my own coffee. So yeah, life sucks.
I was wondering where that was going. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And
I know.
Why couldn't they get it in the contract? It was one line item.
Well, I don't know. Probably because I'm not an exec.
John's got free coffee. Uh-oh.
What?
Probably shouldn't have told you that.
How do you know? Why do you know that? And how come?
Oh,
this
boy.
is outrageous.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break the bad news. All right.
This is the worst day of my life.
Glad I could help. All right. So, all right. So you stepped up into this role in 2011.
Right.
What's it like taking the world's heat when Google makes changes to improve search results? And I mean, it's changing just like it's supposed to. I mean, there's always a loser in the equation, right? And
sure.
And you and John and Martin are always there on the hook to talk to the public. Now, you've been doing this with more regularity here in the last couple of years here, but why jump into that foxhole?
That's a great question. Primarily because I'm masochistic, I guess. Well, that's not true. So when I joined, then we had Matt Cutts, and he was our lightning rod, right?
Yep.
Basically, whenever something happened in search, when we released an update or whatever happened, he was the one who was blamed for it. And it was fantastic because then I wasn't blamed, or John wasn't blamed.
Everybody kind of stepped out of the way.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But then he left or stopped doing that. And then we decided that we can't leave the community alone. We needed someone out there. But then thinking about Matt's position, we kind of realized that having just one person doing this is kind of cruel. And it's like, from mental health perspective, it's probably not that great. So we just decided that we have a whole team taking that on. And then we had several teams who pitched in with helping us doing some online outreach. Definitely, John stepped up and started doing more online stuff, be that office hours or going to conferences, even online conferences, or even traveling for events. I definitely stepped up a lot. I had speaking experience or public speaking experience from my previous jobs. So for me, it wasn't hard. Like, I don't have a stage fright. Like, you can put 10,000 people in front of me and I wouldn't care. But Martin joined us more recently, I think 1 year ago or 1.5 years ago. But we just went out and then we were like, okay, we are now your lightning bolt, not bolt, lightning rod. And take a stab at us. And it went fine. It's actually, it can be frustrating when people are very pushy, but most people online are actually reasonable. And when you start explaining that, as you said, that there are winners and losers to every update, sooner or later they will start understanding it. And once they get to that stage,
right,
then it's all fine. But then you also get nasty emails every now and then. My email, for example, is public, and I have tons of really nasty emails in my inbox about how I destroyed personally someone's business with some update, and I will pay for it, or I had death threats and whatnot. I don't know if John is getting those, but or Martin is getting those, but we definitely have examples for that as well. And then what can you do about it? Like, if I think that it's credible, then I will just forward them to physical security team here at Google,
right,
and have them take a look. They decide whether to take action on them, on those emails or not. But most of them I'm like, sure, whatever, archive.
Yeah. It's terrible that, I mean, we are in this online community, and it's very easy to write a hateful email because you're hidden by a level of anonymity, and all the the social filters get thrown to the wayside. And Twitter has been like that in different spaces, especially for the SEO community. And there's been some hot topics and hot combative type of rhetoric, but I'm very sorry to hear that you get this type of communication coming at you. It's just completely unwarranted, and that your job is not to make somebody's business die. You're trying to improve search results for the online users, and more than often you're going to see that type of communication coming from someone who wasn't even paying attention to what they were doing online with their site, or potentially even manipulating some black hat techniques to try to game the system, and they just didn't understand that they have to keep their own backyard clean. So we're very sorry to hear that, but yeah, you got to keep up the good fight, and you have a good team. You also have Danny Sullivan there as search liaison between you and the SEO community as well, right?
I honestly can't say what Danny's doing. I'm not working with him. I know that John is working more closely with him.
Sure.
I rarely work with him. I know that one of the biggest changes, the no-follow change last year, for example, there we worked together because there we had to nail down a very accurate and very accurate narrative for it. And we just had to be on the same page. Everyone had to be on the same page. And then we worked together. We actually co-wrote the blog post for it and did some communication together around that topic. But otherwise, he's he's, as far as I know, at least, he's more user focused. So he's focusing more on the user side of things and ensuring that, for example, if you have a problem with your knowledge panel, then you can find a way to make changes to that, or that your feedback about search results is listened to. His job, I would say, his job is shittier than ours, because dealing with users when there are substantially more users than webmasters and SEOs and marketers is way more difficult, because everyone who does SEO or marketing or is a webmaster, they have some technical background. They know some tech.
Right.
But then most of the users that come to Google, or I would assume any other search engine, they are not necessarily techie. They don't know how to report something about safe search, for example.
Right.
Or if they have a bad result, like how to report it. And you have to figure out ways to enable those people to raise their opinion and to help them find a way to send us feedback. And then you also have to listen to their feedback, which in many cases is not necessarily very concrete, I would say. Like sometimes they would just say, I don't know, right now I don't have access to the feedback tool anymore, but sometimes I remember it was just like, the search results suck. It's like, okay.
A little bit more explanation, please.
Yeah, like thank you for your feedback, but like, what exactly is wrong with it? Or
this doesn't work like it used to.
Yeah, and you are like, okay, define this. But of course, you also cannot go back to the user to ask them that question, because that's, well, I don't know. You just can't.
I understand.
Yeah, it's I don't envy him at all for what he's doing, or what I know about what he's doing. I wouldn't say I'm happy in where I am, but I'm content about my job, and it's all right, even though I don't have coffee.
Yeah,
for free.
Oh, I wasn't going to bring that up again, but my gosh. Well, so it is a job to be able to respond to users and the tech environment as well. And Google certainly is making strides in communication. Over the last couple of years, it's been incredibly noticeable of your team and how they're getting the message out. They're also making us aware of update changes as a matter of course, and also being able to respond and be much more accurate in communication, where the Google of past, right, have been, I wouldn't say veiled, but a little bit more nondescript of some of the changes that have been working on, and SEOs tried to parse through what you were really saying. You're getting a heck of a lot more accurate description of what's happening. And there are certain things you just can't say based on what you're working on currently. But I just want to applaud you guys, because you have been making great strides in calming some qualms that SEOs may deal with, especially their clients, whenever something changes that may affect their clients. So kudos to you on that. Since COVID hit, search has changed a great deal. New trends from the amount of new search online, and everybody that's sheltered at home. You're taking another level of responsibility. Google is to provide accurate information to help us at home. And I don't think anybody said that the May 5th algorithm update was anything of merit towards local content. But over the course of the last several months, there's been a plethora of assets that we as users can use to protect ourselves, to be able to help educate ourselves as we learn this new environment. So can you tell us about anything that Google has innovated, and even use some of the old technology like the knowledge panel and what have you to allay fears, or more importantly, help get accuracy as we search to try to figure out what's going on with our own lives as well as lives of others. There's a number of things that have happened in the topography of the search results, right?
I think there are two sides to this, or well, not two ways to answer, but there are many ways to answer. But definitely two sides. One is search features. If you search for anything COVID related, then you probably get a COVID panel. I don't know what we call that publicly, but I just call it COVID panel because, well, it's a panel and it's about COVID. So, that was one of the features that, one of those things that we didn't know that we need until COVID hit and shit went sideways. So that was something new that we added to the search result pages. That was based on indirect user feedback. Basically, when you see that more and more people start to look for specific information, and then they perhaps go to sites that don't necessarily help them, or actually even mislead them, then one way you can help them, if the information is public or licensable, is to have a panel like that, like the COVID panel. And that I know for certain that that was very appreciated by users based on feedback. Another way is to actually improve the algorithms to surface content that people are actually looking for. And we talked about this in a while ago. Surface content that has no, I shouldn't say that. That is from an authoritative source, from a trustworthy source. And that's an ongoing effort. It's not like we wake up one day and we are like, oh my God, the search results suck and we have to fix it. It's more like finding subtle things that we have to fix based on what users observed generally. So, for example, if we see that there's a certain kind of sites that are borderline or even mislead users, we probably don't want to send people there. And if we see a rise in such sites, then we have to start thinking about, okay, what changed on our end that enabled that? Or did they find a way to boost their content to overcome some protection that we have or whatever that enabled them to rank high enough to capture some user traffic? And then you start thinking about how you can solve that. Basically, do you need to plug a hole? Do you need to do some other plumbing work, or you need to come up with a completely new mini algorithm that will actually help surface better sites than those? But in case of COVID, I don't think that we had like one major effort that was specifically looking at surfacing high quality COVID related information. It was about surfacing high quality information from relevant sources, from experts, from authoritative sites, from trustworthy sites. COVID is very much an EAT affected thing. Basically, any medical query would be heavily affected by EAT. And that's where we were trying to improve. essentially.
Excellent. It's a topical change, and you're now starting to create. Not create, you're showcasing results that are topical and timely in nature. Is this the new era of search results where we're actually not going to be able to count on something that ranked a year ago is still going to have a particular level of performance that can be counted on due to things that are changing in the current news or the current environments? There's COVID allowed us to be able to shift and be able to have Google show us more relevant information for the time that the users are looking for that information. Is this going to be something new to be able to count on, the pivot of search results based on topical or trending information? Is that something that we could, if we could peer through the veil a little bit, is that something that we can experience?
I don't believe this is a change that is going to affect too many queries going forward.
Okay.
It's like, if you think about it, there are queries where, well, externally people call it query deserves freshness, and COVID is very much falls into that category, because if you want the latest numbers from Florida, for example,
right,
then you need the freshest content from the most authoritative source,
right,
most trustworthy source. But then, if you want to know, I don't know, where was the biggest storm, thunderstorm around Orlando? Which year was the biggest storm around Orlando?
mm-hmm.
For that, you don't actually need
fresh content.
The fresh content.
Right.
Basically, that can be evergreen content.
Right.
That built its reputation and trustworthiness over the years, and we would just rank that. So I would say that whatever happens in the future is very query dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, for queries that actually deserve freshness, we will continue to serve the freshest, highest quality, most authoritative and trustworthy sources.
Mm-hmm.
And then where evergreen content is fine, then we would just go with evergreen content, because there's no good point for serving fresh content for those.
And that's that new responsibility that Google's stepping into, because there are certain trending queries that deserve that level of freshness, just for almost like that public alert system of, okay, this is what's happening right here. This is what you need to know. And any content that has had in the past authoritative and trustworthy evergreen content is still going to stay there. So you're becoming more and more responsive to the needs of the users, and that's your goal as a search engine, right?
Yeah, but if you think about it, query deserves freshness is not something new. Like, even 4 years ago, if you search for the, well, not 4, but 3.5 years ago, if you searched for the election results,
mm-hmm.
Then you were getting fresh content already. There were results that were perhaps evergreen, that, like, for example, I don't understand the election system, the US election system. So I clearly remember results about the, what's it called? The electoral system.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The electoral system. Yeah, absolutely. And there was a lot of questions there, and there's a lot of good information that was written years ago regarding that. And
yeah, exactly. But it's not new. I know that the teams responsible for that particular thing are always improving that part of the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps whatever they launched for, or not in response, but around when COVID started to go sideways, perhaps improved that triggering mechanism.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your response there, because that is, I mean, we're, as SEOs, we're always watching what's happening, and this certainly is a new plethora of assets and tools that Google's providing to its users. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The freshest, most reliable content will bubble up to the surface regularly. So. Changing topic here. I appreciate your unpacking that for us. On your podcast on July 2nd, and kudos to you guys rolling out that podcast. It's a nice, it's great, well produced show. You swung around and John actually mentioned something that he wanted your input on. That was there was a recent problem at Google regarding some indexing, a little bit of an outage. How much heat did you take? I mean, it must be daunting to be part of an organization that is so relied upon every minute of every day, and companies make mistakes. Things happen each and every in all companies, but whenever Google has a misstep here or there, boy, you catch heat on that a mile wide. So can you tell us a little bit about the outage and maybe some of the responses that you had there?
Are we breaking the third wall here? We are talking about a podcast in a podcast.
Yes, it's podcastception.
I'm actually thinking about how to incorporate yet another podcast in my.
You can do it.
Answer.
I know you can.
It's been said it cannot be done. A podcast within a podcast within a podcast has never been done. You need really good chemicals to put someone way under for that.
Who was that? Was that God?
I am the third podcast.
He is the third podcast.
Oh, okay.
We've done it.
Anyway. Yeah. So, well, shit happens. And usually when shit happens on our side, people don't even notice it, fortunately. We have a massive SRE organization, search reliability engineering organization, who keep an eye on every single part of search. And we have many parts to search. And they catch issues way before it's noticeable externally. They are monitoring dashboards essentially, and then set up alerts when certain numbers on those dashboards reach a specific value or fall below a specific value. And if you remember, last year around May, we had quite nasty outage. I don't remember what was it about. I think we couldn't index fresh content.
Yeah.
That was one part of it.
Right.
Then we just couldn't pick up content at one point at all, or new pages at all. It was quite nasty, and it went on for hours. And on our side, it was insanely humbling. Because, well, it just doesn't happen to us, or at least not at that scale. And basically everyone was like, okay, like we messed this up really bad. And the other problem was that we never actually communicated about these issues. If we had an outage that was perhaps even noticed externally, a few people perhaps said something on Twitter about some potential outage, we never went and said that, oh, hey, yeah, we actually have an outage right now, and we expect to resolve it in the next 20 minutes. We never said that. We couldn't ever say that. Basically, our hands were tied. After the outage in May, we sat down and started thinking about how to actually change that. Because for people externally, it was super frustrating to not have their content picked up when they did want to be in search. And we just couldn't say anything to them because we just had no policies about like how to communicate, what to communicate, where to communicate, and to whom exactly to communicate. Should we tweet from the @Google account on Twitter?
Mm-hmm.
Should we tweet from the Webmaster account? Like what we were like completely lost. And then we promised that we would change that, and we started developing this protocol about what to do in case of outages that are potentially noticeable externally. And we also baked in a clause into that if we notice that people on Twitter are complaining about a potential indexing or what looks like an indexing outage,
right,
or search outage, then we can take that back to the search team and they would look. Search team, we call the search team just the SREs, who are basically, we have an alias for them, and they have the search team alias, but they are literally just the SREs who are taking or who are monitoring search. So I'm overloading search team. Sorry about that. I'm an ass. You'll get over it. So we can twist the search teams, the search SRE's arm, to actually investigate, even if there are just, let's say, 5 reports within half an hour about a potential outage. Somehow they agreed to that. That was fantastic. Well, fantastic in a bittersweet way. A few weeks ago when we had this other outage, because people started complaining, tweeting about search not picking up content, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't actually remember what was it about. Or content not getting indexed, content getting crawled but not getting indexed. And there was like one, then there was another one, then there was another one, and that's when I actually started thinking that, okay, that was like 3 in like 30 minutes, something is not right. Mm-hmm. And then I started looking, and I was actually misled by our own graphs, because our graphs just showed that indexing is not picking up new content. So I escalated to indexing, and they were like, no, everything is fine. Everything is fine. And then our SRE teams, both crawling and indexing, started investigating, and they found that we are crawling so hard and we are pushing so much, or we are trying to push so much through indexing, through caffeine, that it just can't handle it. And basically, our indexing system became a bottleneck. So externally, it looked like an indexing issue. Internally, it looked like a crawling issue.
Crawling was just pulling too much, and the indexing wasn't able to process everything.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Basically, we just overloaded indexing like a boss. And then the beautiful part was that we could actually communicate about this. So initially, when we were trying to come up with what can we say externally, then our back and forth with PR was very amusing, because basically we were coming up with, okay, can we say this? And they were like, nope. And then 2 days later, we went back with something different, and okay, so how about this? And they were like, nope. And this went on, and finally we reached a middle ground where we would confirm but not say what it was. So I shouldn't do what I just did for the past 5 minutes. Yeah.
Something tells me that the culture is not, in Google, is not asking forgiveness as opposed to permission. I don't think that's the actual lay of the land over there. So hey, you got to be careful. I get that, but you shared that on the podcast on July and July 2nd, and I appreciate the breakdown here. So if PR comes back to us, I'm sure we can cut that out, right?
I like we already released it, so it's at this point it's done deal.
All right, very
and
good.
They might send me an email like, Gary, you did it again, and I will be like, yep.
See, there it is right there. That's what we want to see coming out of Google. All right. So last question here, Gary, I promise. Appreciate you sharing that information. The SEO community has always been contentious at best, but there's always been back and forth, push and pulls, and part of communication and sharing things that are happening in Google, or at least what they're seeing, has always been a little bit of a bragging right or humble brag type of connection of I'm seeing this and getting the limelight inside of the SEO community. Do you have any problems with SEOs right now? Are not to name names, but is there a large challenge dissing? Well, there you
go. Freudian slip.
I think so. Dealing with the SEO community right now.
Again, fantastic question. And the short answer is no. It's really weird.
But is that a lie?
Honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Because here's the thing. Over the years, I always found ways to. I always found reasons to yell at people. And to make fun of people, and to just be an ass with them because they did something stupid or silly, or they broke something or whatever.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I find it really hard to find anything. Or if I find something, then it's. I find that it's general misunderstanding in our documentations, for example, instead of someone just being utterly stupid.
Sure.
It's I honestly don't know what happened, but I don't feel like I could point to anyone I could yell at for a good reason. I mean, I could yell at anyone for
any reason.
Stupid reasons.
Absolutely. Don't feel yourself as restrained there. I mean, just go to town.
Yeah, but not for a good reason. And that's I like yelling when I have a very good reason for it, and that's what I don't have right now. Or recently, I don't have reason for that.
So there could be a Gary Illyes metric here. If we are not doing stupid things, right? For the most part, he won't be slamming us nearly as much as other periods of time. Could we make that a dashboard metric on Google?
I'm working on it actually.
Well,
so here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a very abstract thing, but in theory, you can come up with a metric for how happy the ecosystem is with what we are doing, and in general with the state of the internets, I guess. For the longest time, we couldn't come up with a good metric, and now we sat down with marketing, or started working on something with marketing that will try to proxy that. And it was actually prompted by something like your question, where I noticed that I find it hard to find a good reason to be nasty on Twitter. What?
Come on, you can have it. You can find something in you. Come on.
No. So I could always find like stupid reasons and make fun of I don't know, Barry because he just copy pasted something. But it's like Barry Schwartz from SE Roundtable, and also Search Engine Search Engine Land. Oh, sorry. Like I could do that, but it's not a good reason. Like he does that. He did that for way longer than I been at Google, or I did SEO. So it's not my place. It's not a good reason to yell at him for it. But then if you were to go to Twitter and then start spreading stupid crap, then that perhaps would be a good reason to yell at you, and finally I wouldn't be so bored.
So we actually, what you're saying is we owe it to you to come up with, basically, we just need to troll you with some stupid crap just so you can enjoy your life.
Well, I still wouldn't have coffee.
No, you would not.
For free. So I would probably not enjoy my life, but at least it would be more bearable, I guess.
I think we just need to put a challenge out to all SEOs. We need to put together a care package list for Gary to send him coffee each and every day.
So here's the thing. I don't know if you know. I had for whatever reason, Brett Tapke Tapke or whatever his name is, from PopCon. He always puts my keynote or Q&As from like 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or I don't know, 4 a.m. or whatever. Like basically when I should be sleeping, I have to be on stage because I have no idea, because he decided so. And a couple of years ago, again, he put me from 8 a.m. with the Q&A with Eric Enge. And the interview the Q&A was already going on, and I was just like falling asleep on that couch. And I'm like, you know what? Let's stop. I really need a coffee. And then, you know Mark Traphagen?
Yes.
Okay. So he was like, hey, I'm here. I'm bringing coffee. And then he disappeared. And then maybe 2 minutes later, like there was some laughter in the room. Maybe 2 minutes later, he shows up with a coffee on stage and a sugar, because I don't know, I am not sweet enough or whatever. And it was amazing. And if you could send Mark to my house, that would be fantastic, because I only accept coffee now from Mark.
We're going to have to reach out to Mark on this one. That's marketing, folks, right there.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's right.
One of my favorite people.
That's fantastic.
Well, since then, anyway.
Oh, there you go. So, you know, you were talking about conferences. I swore this was going to be my last question, but I'm going to throw another one at you and then finish up here. Conference changes. Things are happening so differently right now, and technology has really helped us in that space. You guys were talking about your podcast about some of the new things that are happening with conferences. We're finally able to start doing these now, obviously virtually, and they're turning out pretty well. SMX just had their virtual SMX Next conference. Are you getting inspired by some of the innovation and some of the speakers that are in these conferences now?
Honestly, I'm not following that thing. I have very strong reservations about virtual events for various reasons. One being that retention for online events is very low. Basically, if you think about it, if you attended an online event, if I ask you to recall 5 things, you probably won't be able to.
Right.
And that's because the setting is not great for retaining things. It's great for chat, for example, because you tricked me into doing this video, for example. Yeah, podcast, huh?
But you're retaining it much deeper, right?
Well, I will remember this. But generally, people don't easily remember stuff that they heard at online events. Right. I am actually running a study on this with a marketing company, and trying to figure out if that's actually the case, or basically trying to prove it or disprove it.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, it very much seems that retention is horrible. Second thing is that there are way too many events already, virtual events. Basically, everyone is bleeding virtual events right now. And if you search for something like virtual event fatigue, for example, on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
or event fatigue or something like that on Twitter, there will be quite a few tweets detailing how people burned out in no time because of these events. Basically, you are attending them, you are still doing your job while listening to whatever the speaker has to say.
Right.
You are not retaining anything because you are paying attention to your work, but then you are also trying to pay attention to whatever the speaker is saying, and that just leads to your brain just being fried, essentially.
There's
so yeah,
there's so many physical things in regards to a visit to a conference, and the intangibles or the ephemeral side of things, where you're getting reinforced about the importance of that event, and it's also you're committing physically to that event.
Yeah.
That's a permanence that's ingrained in your brain. I mean, I remember conferences from a decade ago and specific conversations, right? And that won't, that to your point, that will just not have the permanence or the storage that these online events have. They're trying their best, obviously, but it's that in person. It's honestly the conversations outside of the speaking and the listening that are usually some of the most memorable things, right?
Yep. The coffee discussions, the hallway discussions, those are always so valuable to people, and I heard that feedback a lot. For me, definitely, it's one of the most valuable things because that's how I get spam reports from people. For other people, it's just making that connection, finding new job, whatever.
Right.
I'm actually excited about podcasts, which this is not, by the way.
Wow, you just won't let that one go, will you?
No, you will hear this for years. It's that's again different somehow, and I don't know. I don't yet know how or why. I'm listening to Conan O'Brien's podcast. Conan Needs Friends, or more friends, which is definitely the case, by the way. I can somehow retain I can remember the jokes that he was making, or his interviewees were making, and I don't know why. Because I was doing something else while listening to his podcast, yet I remember stuff from whatever he was saying.
It's because it was more organic. There's a more organic piece of this. There's a more authentic. There's an eat inside of podcasts. How about that?
Perhaps. Could be. Yeah.
Just drop the mic on that
one. You should have.
All right. Fine. All right. So let me ask you this, Gary. What excites you about your industry?
Podcasts.
That was just like a softball to him, wasn't it?
No, this was not. Actually, podcasts are I think are super exciting right now, because it feels like you can deliver things through the podcast that people will actually remember. And you can't do that with events, it seems. So perhaps podcasts are the next big thing.
Unless we podcast at events, right? We could do that
while listening to Conan's podcast.
There you go. There's the fourth wall right there. He got there.
High five.
Virtual high five. There we go. See, look at that. All right. Well,
We did it.
We did. We had to get there, but we did it. All right. So what bugs you about your industry right now?
Nothing.
Bullshit. Oh, wait, did I say that?
Yeah, you already asked me.
Okay, fine. We're just going to go with that. Nothing bugs you. Absolutely nothing bugs you about your industry right now.
There's nothing. I'm literally bored. Like, I'm posting stupid polls on Twitter just to entertain myself, and for whatever reason, people are answering, which is also surprising. Like, well, it's surprising that I have any follower base at all. I'm literally just entertaining myself with polls because there's not that much happening. People seem to figure everything out easily. The questions, like, I'm stalking John Mueller and Martin to see what kind of questions they are getting, and there's also nothing interesting. So it's perhaps not me. It's everyone.
This is the calm before the storm, though, right?
Could be.
All right, fine. Then I'll just have to resort to this. What was your latest culinary creation? I'll just end with this. What was your best recipe last week?
I switched to Indian recipes because I love to eat spicy. That's one thing. Second thing is that I spent lots of time in India, and I love Indian food, like proper Indian food, not whatever they create in England and claim to be Indian. And it's very challenging to make them right. My father was a chef, so I'm very comfortable in the kitchen, and I can cook pretty much anything. And finally, I found that Indian dishes are challenging enough that they can entertain me. So, for example, yesterday I was making something called palak paneer, which is spinach, cheese, a kind of cheese in spinach gravy. And that came out okay. But then usually they eat it with flat bread, which I never in my life made before, Indian flatbread. And I was like, oh, come on. It's just some wheat flour and water. How hard can it be? Well, it turned out like quite similar to drywall. And I can bake bread, like probably a dozen kind of different breads. And finally I was like, okay, I need to do this more because this is actually hard.
One could say it fell flat. Sorry.
Yeah, I suck at Indian food.
Very cool.
But yeah, I cook a lot, and during COVID, I was cooking even more. I had I think 7 clients in total who were picking up food from me. Basically, I was cooking for some elderly people and some entitled people who just wouldn't want to go into their kitchen to cook even an egg.
Wow.
But for me, it's fun. It's a calming experience. It was great.
Very good, sir. All right. So for all the entitled in the audience, Gary will not cook for you, right? He just won't. All right. Well, I mean, all things considered, I think the lesson learned out of this entire podcast is
Wait, you said podcast again.
I did. Sorry. I'm trying to reinforce the I mean, I got to serve my podcast listeners, but they do actually watch the video too. You know, realize that. Omni-channel, Gary. Omni-channel. Multiple lanes.
Sure. Right.
All right. So let's not make Gary bored. Let's find a way to piss him off. It's our duty to be able to throw some stupid questions at Gary on a regular basis.
And you're slacking off.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I'll find something. How many headlines and how many H1s do we need to have on a page? 7
at least.
All right. Thank you. All right.
It would be even better if you just put the whole article or centerpiece in an H1. That would be amazing, and also would look amazing on the page. Is he taking notes?
He is.
I'm doing it right now. I'm updating our website.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Excellent.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. And we'll get back to you, see how that works out for us. All right, final thoughts. What's your final thought to the watching and listening audience here at Edge of the Web?
Yeah, I was told that I have to be nice sometimes, so I will try that. I'm not sure if it will work out, but I will try nonetheless.
I was going to ask, how's that working out for you?
It's really hard. It's very challenging. Anyway, we are living now in a very challenging time, and I was pleasantly surprised how wholesome the SEO and marketing community been through these past 3 months or 4 months or whatever it was. I lost track of time, and I feel weird about this because I don't think it's my place to say this, but thank you for being who you were during these challenging times, because it was really hard for everyone, and the search ecosystem, the online ecosystem, just kept their shit together, and they were helping out each other. They were helping businesses come online. They were helping with each other's mental health. It was beautiful to watch it. So thank you for that. And again, I don't feel that it's my place, but I actually mean it when I say that. That was absolutely brilliant to watch.
It's amazing, isn't it? And there's so much help to help find jobs and to be able to arm people with truth as opposed to fiction. And I mean, conversely, well, not conversely. In response, Gary, Google certainly is helping out in giving us the resources and the knowledge that we need as well during this period of time. So get that back to everybody who's helping on that space as well. All right.
No, I will keep it to myself.
Okay.
I mean, they can watch your video. Right?
It's not a video; it's a podcast.
You are taking video right now. It is a video. Come on.
It is a video.
I think the best thing to come out of all this is our podcast listeners who are now going to learn about the video.
Absolutely.
Because Gary has mentioned it. So this is the best promotion ever for the video side of things.
He just doesn't like to be lied to. That's why he's just pissed off. He's looking for something to be pissed off about. Look at that.
No, I just realized that I was giving you free advertising. Okay, I will tell the chat later.
Nice. All right. Well,
wait, no, you send the check. I'm an idiot.
Oh, we'll take your check. That's fine.
We're sending coffee.
We're sending coffee, dude.
Okay.
Via Mark. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gary. It's been a pleasure. I kind of figured this conversation is going to go this route, so I appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Keep on. Don't let Martin get away with many fluffy unicorns, just for the sheer sake of darkness.
I'm spraying his butterflies as often as I can.
I appreciate that.
I'm keeping him on the ground.
You need to send him some sort of Gary Illyes filter for his videos, just so he can, just take out the pink.
That's a good idea.
All right, there you go. All righty.
I will patent that.
No, I said it first.
What doesn't matter if I patent it first?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, he's Google too, right? Yeah, I can't stand a chance. All right, we're out. Thank you so much, Gary. Appreciate all the time today.
Thank you.
And you stay healthy out there and keep up the good work. All right.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
I'm done. Turn this guy off. I can't deal with him anymore. All right, please don't forget to like and subscribe the Edge of the Web YouTube as well as over at iTunes. If you're really feeling up to it, give us a quick review, especially for this show, because you realize what I had to go through with Gary Illyes. I mean, that should at least get some sort of review on iTunes, a positive review. I would hope so. Check out all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Yeah, the videos are over there. The podcast's over there as well. All the insider information is there, as well as signing up for the newsletter. We'll send over some great information via the newsletter. It's an email too, Gary. Who knew? So from all of us over at Edge, thanks so much. We're going to be talking to Jessica Bowman next week. From all of us over at Edge and Site Strategics, stay safe, stay well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.